Hey guys, it is me, Tanya, founder of the TNG Designs Group Limited. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, looking after yourselves. Now, in today's video, we're actually going to be talking about what is branding in graphic designing. Now, a lot of the time, people will typically get the two confused. And yes, they are most definitely different. So that being said, did you see that expression there? They're definitely different, right? So that being said, I'm actually going to explain to you what the differences are, but equally key things that you need to be mindful of when it comes to understanding what branding is in graphic design. Okay, now before you get stuck into this particular video, I want to make sure that you're actually liking and subscribing to this channel as well. So please make sure that you go ahead and do so. Hit the little bell that's actually right there to be able to be reminded when I go ahead and upload a new video. So folks, without further ado, let's get stuck into this, and also make sure that you stick around to the very end, because as always, I've got a super cool gift to be able to share with you. So folks, without further ado, let's get stuck into this. So, okay, as I said to you, we're going to be talking about the idea of branding, or even what is branding in graphic design. Now, it is common, it is very common that people often get the two mixed up, simply because I guess the methods or the ways that you're creating branding, and essentially it does get, I guess it blurs the line slightly. However, no, they are specifically different things. Graphic design, you can say, is almost like the tool, is the method for certain aspects, certain assets to happen. For example, when we talk about guiding tools like your logo, when it comes to your flyers, your roller banners, all those things are created by graphic design, okay? Even when it comes to billboards, even when it comes to posters, even when it comes to signage that you will also see, that's all created by graphic design. Branding, however, is something that's completely different. Branding literally is the essence, is the idea, the little intricacies, your values, your vision, and your purpose for the reason why you do what you do, the reason why you actually do what you do. Branding encompasses all of that. And then branding equally helps to drive home the idea or the look and feel as to what your graphic design, or as to what your elements, the assets that you're actually creating should actually look like. So I hope that part makes sense, because now we're going to be moving on. Now, the first thing that we're actually going to be touching base on, I've actually given you a little hint about as to what it is, and it's the idea of the look and feel. So where I shared with you the idea of what branding can actually do for graphic design, right? Especially when it comes to understanding the two differences, your branding actually drives home the idea as to what your graphic design should now be pulling together when it comes to your logo, when it comes to your flyer, when it comes to understanding what certain things should actually look like and how they should be positioned next to each other. When you get to understand that, once again, your VPV, you know, it's always touch base on the idea of what that is. When you get to understand what your VPV is when it comes to building your brand as a whole, you then get to understand what your actual graphic design should actually be pulling together. Now, your branding, all the essence, the assets, in fact, or all the elements that make up your brand should always be given to any outside help. And when I mean by outside help, I'm talking about your suppliers. So those who are building your websites, those who are actually doing your graphic designs for you, those who are actually creating your flyers, your roller banners, your brochures, whatever that may be, anybody that's creating something for you on behalf of your brand, building something for you on behalf of your brand, in fact, they will need to understand what your brand is about, so that that branded journey is considered and equally remains consistent throughout all of the assets that you create, and equally comes from you. So that's number one, when you get to understand what the look and feel is, okay? And that nicely leads me on to the idea of what number two is. Now, essentially, when it comes to the look and feel, this is where you start essentially branching out even further as to what your fonts are going to be looking at, as to what your colors are going to be understanding about. And more essentially, we call that the form, right? So now your form, we're looking at your colors, looking at your fonts, the right type of fonts, by the way. And I will always, just a quick tip, I will always just use at least two main fonts. Sometimes you can use a third one, but typically use two main fonts. Have what I call one, which is the sort of talking font, the one that you will use to shout about specific key points that you want to raise. Then have a secondary font that will carry your main body information. Now, that secondary font should always be legible, regardless of how big or how small it is. With the other font, you can actually have so much fun with it, right? It's almost like your poster font. What is that font that you really want to create the actual additional impact with? Use that. Again, typically have 2 just to work with for now. The reason why I say 2 is because any more than that can sometimes, not all the time, but it can sometimes look super clumsy, and super clumsy can sometimes be very, very confusing. You don't want to confuse your audience. You want to make sure that they're understanding exactly what it is that you're doing and why it is that you're doing it. Okay, so that was a quick tip. Now, moving back into here, the idea of understanding what the form should be, right? Your VPV, your values, in fact, let's really home in on that, right? Especially when it comes to understanding what the look and feel should be. Your values will help you to understand the type of color that you need to be resonating with. And again, the type of font styles. If, for example, you choose font styles that are resonating with the idea of freedom, make sure that they're nice and light and literally feeling free. If they're spacious, or maybe freedom could be a super impactful font, big font. Now, I actually do have a video about fonts specific to your brand and what is suitable to use. So go ahead and check that out, and I'll put a little key card around here somewhere. Now, if, for example, your value is freedom, think about what fonts will naturally resonate with you. There are so many font libraries that are online. Use Google Fonts if you like for a very nice and easy free font library. There are other ones such as the Creative Market Suite. There are so many others out there, so check them out. Canva has a whole host of them to help you along your way. But think about what your values are, especially when it comes to your colors as well. Now, another quick tip. Do not use the meanings of colors to help you to decide what color should be for you. And I'm going to say that again. Do not use the meanings of colors to help you to decide what the color should be for you. And here's why. If you stick to those meanings, you wouldn't choose half of the colors that you see there, right? Now, typically, one of my colors, my actual primary color for my brand, is yellow. Yellow actually has a double meaning. It can mean something negative as well as something positive. Now, because I know what my values are, I actually use yellow because it resonates with my value of openness and creativity. What colors represent your values? Think about that part. Your values will help you to understand your colors, understand your fonts, and essentially, folks, lead with them, because they'll help you to make a hell of a lot more decisions, especially when it comes to you and your business and your brand. Okay, so here we are. The final third thing to help you to understand what is branding in graphic design, okay? You understand about the idea of the look and feel. Then you understand about the idea of the form, or essentially, you know, what your fonts and your colors are looking like. Now, this is where you get to understand how to use your tone of voice with graphic design. Now, when I talk about tone of voice, I'm talking about the typical expressions, your slogans, your messaging, your wording that will help to empower all those who are working with you, or equally those who you want to work with, right? Your tone of voice will help you to understand what your messaging should be, or how to express your messaging. And essentially, your tone of voice when it comes to graphic design, or reflecting that within graphic design, again, I kind of touched bases on this in the font. It allows you to be able to express the importance of key words. Now, here's what I mean by this. Graphic design, especially when you have a very impactful font, imagine your tone of voice is talking about, again, freedom. I'm just going to use that. Or maybe it's talking about peace this time, right? And you want to express the word peace based off of the font that you've actually chosen for your word peace. It could be a super linear kind of a styling of a font that's nicely spread out. And with your tone of voice, with the way how you're expressing it, you use that simple linear kind of voice, or simple linear kind of styling to suit the messaging that is resonating with your values, to suit the messaging that is actually resonating with the information that you actually want to get across to your audience. Now, if you have a super impactful kind of a font, or you have a super impactful kind of a tone of voice, or a message that is all about getting clear-cut, direct information, then maybe you go for something like a big poster font, or a big impactful font called like Impact, right? And I'll share a few examples here as well. And when you get to really home in on what the tone of voice is, what it is, or how you're saying things, your expressions also make up your tone of voice. The way you say things also make up your tone of voice. Your empowering notes that you put into certain messagings, quotes, key information, topical issues, topical or trending things that will actually resonate with what it is and why it is that you're doing what you're doing. When you get to tap into those things for your tone of voice, you'll get to realize, right, with graphic design, this is how I can now create that level of expression. This is how I can really drive home the message. Graphic design allows you to be able to do that. And it's a super cool tool, because without it, half of the things that you're seeing in your day-to-day life, you would not be seeing. Graphic design has a super major influence and impact in all that we do and how we do it. All because of the way how things are expressed, all because of the way how things are actually shown. Graphic design actually plays a huge role in our day-to-day lives without us even realizing it. So folks, I'm going to leave it there. And I want to make sure that not only are you really understanding the two differences between branding and graphic design, but more importantly, what branding is in graphic design. I really want you to home in on that and really understand that with graphic design, you need it for a hell of a lot of what you're doing. Now, the difference is the level of expertise. And the difference is making sure that you actually use an expert who knows how to construct things, who knows how to pay homage to your branding, and who knows how to use the combination of what you're about with your brand, but equally how to express that so that your audience gets you. That's the key thing right there. So folks, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that this video really resonated with you. Please go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel. And remember to hit that little bell to make sure that you do not miss out on any videos that I go ahead and upload. And as always, folks, right here in the description box below, there's a link that I'd love for you to go ahead and just click on. When you click on that link, you're going to understand that there are some details that I need from you. And here's the reason why. When you share with me your details, I'm going to fire over to you some really cool information, and not just information that you're going to want to leave in your inbox. No, this information is actually going to help to grow your business, help to expand on the awareness of what it is and why it is that you're doing. This information will be able to help you to understand just that, but even more so, how to make those better connections with the people you actually want to work with. Go ahead and click on that link to find out even more. And folks, I will see you on the other side.